What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Man Cave Mondays. My name's Christian. We're gonna have a little bit of a different show for you today. Not that we don't have the full group here, but we got a couple of us. I'm here. Bobby's here.
Hi everybody, how you doing?
What's going on, Bobby? How you doing today?
I'm great. I'm great. Just chilling out here in my man corner.
I'm at my man island in the kitchen.
We don't have the man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to turn another man light on here. Give me 1 second.
Go for it. Yeah. So I'll just bring everyone up to speed today. Today, we are going to discuss WandaVision. Everything. So the first entry in the phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which debuted on Disney Plus a couple weeks ago and was shown in weekly installments with a very slow burn.
Yep. First installment in phase 4 that was supposed to be our third installment in phase 4.
Right.
But
because of
COVID delays, Black Widow got pushed back. They couldn't finish filming Falcon and Winter Soldier in enough time due to COVID restrictions. So they were able to finish filming WandaVision, subparly finish some of the graph with the CGI, which we'll get to later, and pump it out.
Yeah. So otherwise, just to kind of recap, what happens is Wanda Maximoff. This takes place after the events of Avengers Endgame, and it starts off Wanda and Vision, who supposedly died at the end of Endgame, are now in a Dick Van Dyke show called WandaVision.
Yep, 50s era,
black and white, and
it's such an interesting concept because starts off with such a slow burn.
Yes, because you're watching every episode as if you're watching an actual TV episode, and you're just trying to figure out what's going on at the end. And at the end of every episode, they go back to the 16 by, and it starts off by the 4:3 aspect ratio, like you're watching an original TV, and then it slowly moves to a 16:9 aspect when you move into, all right, this is now quote unquote the real life of Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Exactly. They're just dropping, the one little tease at the end of every episode, followed by their 10 minutes of credits.
And there's no whatchamacallit, no end credit scenes
for the first few episodes. Until you get to the modern day era.
Till you get to the modern day era and everything's starting to catch up, and they're just trying to build a little bit more anticipation into the show.
Yeah. So I think it goes without saying, if anybody listening, anybody watching has not watched WandaVision yet, right down there at the bottom, we are going to be spoiling everything for you. So if you want to watch it and enjoy it from start to finish, unspoiled, which I highly recommend if you are an MCU fan, you definitely want to do. This is a fantastic series, and it is definitely going to be a must-watch to understand what's coming up in phase 4. So if you want to enjoy it by itself without being spoiled by us bunch of weirdos talking about it on the internet, go watch that first. We'll be here. You can come back, watch the video after, listen to us after, and then you can hear us talk about everything. But I definitely recommend, if you don't want to be spoiled, come back.
Yes, please do. And I think our private conversations with the Man Cave, we are always making sure one of us would always watch it ahead of everyone else, but we would always make sure that we are always caught up.
We actually haven't really talked much about it in our private group chats, honestly, because nobody's really been all caught up yet at the same time. So this is really going to be the first time that even the few of us that are going to be here tonight are actually going to really get to talk about it. So it's going to be fun.
So Dan, who's going to show up late, he wasn't into it. He's going to be here soon, but he wasn't into it. But Christian and I, we were watching it on like Friday or Saturday night.
It was the cautious optimism for us. He was a little more of the skeptic optimism.
Right. And then once we started getting more into the show, we're like, it's a very slow burn, but you're going to like this. And in the end, I guess we can speak for him. He said he was digging the show so we'll let him talk later if he joins us.
He's not here, so he can't tell us otherwise. Dan loves it. Dan's the biggest fan. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I don't think I give it 5 out of 5.
Dan would. Dan loved it.
It subverted his expectations.
Yeah, which I honestly think that And I think that honestly, for me personally, before we dive too much into a full episode for episode recap, I would just love to know, what were your expectations going in before even the first episode?
This was this was the expectations that this was. So, spoiler alert, at the end, Wanda has a mental breakdown, drives to a little small town where she finds out Vision bought a plot of land. She has a mental breakdown and makes her own little,
creates a false reality.
Makes a pocket universe.
Yeah.
In this small little New Jersey town and then she's reliving all the trauma. She's masking all the trauma. Well, back it up. She used to watch all these TV shows. Oh, Dan is online with us. Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey. Yes, we can hear you just fine. It says Dan on mobile. So we were just kind of recapping what was happening in WandaVision right now.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm running a little late to my man cave. I'm in the car.
You're good, no worries.
My bad. That's hence why you can't see my face other than that god awful ugly picture. And I probably sound like I'm in a tin can in the middle.
You sound like you're in the 50s era of WandaVision. So it's perfect.
That's what we're doing. So as the night progresses, the technology is going to get better.
Yeah, eventually Dan will join us in modern day.
Nice connection. I like that.
So we were just talking about you, Dan. Yeah. So what was your...
Don't believe a word of it, people. Don't believe a word of it.
Wait. Did you like this? So at first, we were saying you were a little skeptical of the series, but now you really enjoyed it.
I don't know that I'd say I was skeptical, because I had high hopes that it would get to where it eventually landed. But man, were those first few episodes a slow burn.
Right, which I think we can all agree with. So
and like it was a real drag for me. And don't get me wrong, I really, really like classic 50s TV. I really do. Yeah. And they did a great job of capturing the magic of everything that era of television was, for sure.
Well, and I think part of the thing with why it was such a slow burn too was, I don't know if you guys know this, so it released with that 2-episode premiere, right?
Right.
They dropped the first 2 episodes right at the beginning, and then there was 7 episodes after that. Well, originally it was supposed to be a 10-episode season, and so they were going to drop the first 3 episodes all at the beginning, and then the 7 episodes after that. So, because if you remember, episode 4 was the "we interrupt this message" or whatever episode. Right. So we were supposed to get all 3 of those first ones in one sitting. And then the next week we'd go into that kind of exposition episode.
I think the leading off with just the first 2 made it harder for me to get around to picking it up later.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm very glad that I did, because it ended up being really good. But yeah, the first 2 episodes I binged them and was like, kind of fun. Okay.
Yeah, and then you get to episode 3, which is also a little slower still.
There were a couple, little like weird, funky things that were going on that teased the fact that there's more, but it wasn't substantial enough for me to be like, well, I'm putting that at the top of my list when the next episode comes out.
Exactly. So, whereas, I think if we had gone through
it was hilarious, because just amongst us in our group, we kept wanting to have a conversation about all of the next episodes that came afterwards. And
but we weren't all caught up at the same time.
Joe and Andrew, like all 3 of us were like, yeah, we got to get around to it. And it wasn't until I think literally the 5th episode came out that maybe it was the 6th one where I was finally like, okay, fine, I guess I'll sit down and watch them. And it got way better.
Yeah, infinitely better.
Way better.
Right.
But it took me forever to get back to it, because the first 2 were just fun, really cutesy, a little weird, but not like
it wasn't must see for you.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So
what would you say before the show released, before you had even seen a single episode? What would you say your expectation was for the season going in, just based off of like early teasers and trailers and stuff?
Me or Bobby?
Either one of you, both of you, but you can go first, Dan.
Dan, you go first.
Bobby. I talked to him. No, I don't know. I'm driving right now, so I'll listen to you.
Okay, all right. Well, I was just saying, it's exactly what I was expecting. Wanda revisiting her trauma through the magic of TV because she latched onto TV as her childhood device. That was her moment of happiness.
Right.
So it is exactly what I expected. It turned out verbatim. I'm happy with all the non-spoilers, all the, we can dive into this later. All my theories. I wasn't trying to okay, if this theory doesn't happen, it's going to be thrown out. If they don't introduce the mutants into this, I'm all done. I wasn't I was happy. They were kind of teasing us. And then I was reading articles from the actual showrunners. Some of them didn't even know some of the backstory of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Wanda and Vision. So all of our theories weren't even considered. Right. So everyone was saying Mephisto's going to show up. And the head writer's like, I had no idea who Mephisto was. So
here's the thing about the whole Mephisto thing is if they had Mephisto show up.
Who is Mephisto, by the way?
Mephisto is basically the devil in the Marvel comic universe. He is basically the devil himself. And
he was responsible for the twins.
Yeah,
in
the comics lore, Mephisto's soul got shattered and two pieces of his soul latched onto Wanda and Vision's twin sons. And so they circled around. He eventually got fully destroyed. The children disappeared, and then they eventually circled their way back around and came back. So most people were assuming that this would connect to that in some sense. But here's the thing: if you remember, with Mephisto, he looks like the devil. He is basically the devil, and so I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but in Chinese cinema and television, there is a ban on any devil iconography from ever showing up.
So Disney will have that.
Disney wouldn't have been able to air WandaVision at all in any Chinese market if they had Mephisto show up. So that's literally
you just make it more able to read between the lines
that's why I think if they ever do have a Mephisto,
you say he's not the devil, you just say he's Mephisto, and then his actual physical
he only shows up in like a human form or something. Exactly. That's why I think if he ever does show up, that's how they would play it. They would definitely be more of a human kind of like. Have you guys ever seen like the TV show Lucifer?
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's a great another comic book series.
Yeah, I think they would kind of go more that route, the human form, maybe the eyes flashing or something like that. But yeah, so I mean, I definitely agree with you, Bobby. I think my expectations were very similar with you. I think I was expecting it to kind of be pretty much what it was, and honestly, I was actually very pleased and satisfied with the route they went with the story because it didn't need to be this massive story.
No, it didn't.
Everybody was expecting that it was going to be this kicking off point for the phase, but you got to remember, this was not supposed to be the kicking off point for the phase. This was supposed to be the third thing that we were going to see in phase 4. We were supposed to get Black Widow and Falcon and Winter Soldier before we got WandaVision. This was never intended to be the jump start for phase 4. This was just supposed to be another thing taking place in the phase.
Right, and then it's supposed to and then the series leads into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Right, exactly.
So, which at the end, it really does
it perfectly sets up her character for it.
Wanda, whether she's going to be a villain, which I really think she was a villain in this. And that was one of my I was not happy with
I don't think she was a villain. I disagree with that. I think a villain is somebody who intentionally does evil.
I would disagree. She was absolutely 100% a villain, and I'm totally cool with it. I don't think she realized until the end how much of a negative impact her villainous choices were having on the people around in that.
And sometimes,
but she was still a villain. So
again,
sympathetic.
And
villain on the list.
Villains come in shades of gray. Sometimes they're sympathetic.
I guess it's semantics of the word for me personally. I would say she was the antagonist, but I wouldn't say she was the villain, because to me, a villain is somebody who is intentionally causing harm to other people and I don't think she was doing it intentionally. It was all subconscious.
Well, Grief was the actual villain, according to the head writers. Grief was the actual villain. And I think they did a good job of showcasing her grief.
They literally went through all the 5 stages of depression and grief and all of that.
Yeah, and it did a really good job of showcasing how she got to this point and connecting it with the other MCU movies.
And honestly, this is me personally. I would have been totally fine if they saved that 4th episode where they did all the exposition and stuff like that, and just gave us to that like episode 6. Like,
I would have been fine with that.
Just brought us all the way through the entire TV show, and then once it breaks, then you jump us back and be like 36 hours earlier, and then show us everything that they've been working on the outside.
I think they put that exactly where it needed to be, because they
I think it
worked.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I would change it to be that way. I'm saying I would have been totally fine if they had done it that way.
I think you might have been in the minority on that front, because you would have lost people like Dan, like, all right, this is already done, and then you got to try to pull them back.
True.
And you had to start building the social media response and everything. Like, oh, this is happening. Right. Oh, this is happening. And slowly
I tuned in fully knowing that it was going to be multiple different styles of television.
Yeah.
Each episode was like, it was going to be gradually going through different eras of TV. Like, I knew that going in, but I was not tuning in because I wanted to see some sort of Marvel flavor of all of these different eras of TV.
Right.
I was tuning in because I wanted to see exactly what the heck was going on with all of this craziness and how it connected with the rest of the MCU.
Right.
And if they had have gone through the entire thing and saved that whole reveal of we interrupt this program, like that 4th episode, waited for that reveal until the very end, I don't know that I'd have lasted.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also don't know that the more major reveals of what happened to Vision's body and all of that stuff would have.
They wouldn't have carried the same weight necessarily.
Wouldn't have carried the weight, the villain component to a lot of what Sword was doing. Are they bad? Are they good? Do they have their, like, all of that kind of, what are their motivations? Like,
which I think that's a good segue right there. Is what was Sword's goal? And what was Hayward's goal? Like, he ultimately, to my opinion, his goal didn't feel fully fleshed out.
No, and I think that's why they wanted to make him an antagonist, like someone you want to hate, but like in every way, he was not justified bringing the Vision back online, but he was totally justified trying to take care of Wanda. Wanda was in violation of the Sokovia Accords, which was when in Civil War, when Wanda blew up the hotel. All the world got together,
that's not why he was trying to go after her.
No,
he was trying to go after her because he wanted to figure out a way for her to reactivate Vision.
But saving the people.
Everything always came back to, we need to get Vision back online.
But so once he got Vision online, why didn't he just leave? Why didn't he just let Wanda do what she was doing in the dome and leave with active Vision? Why did he had to justify his actions to his superiors, because if the other Vision was, okay, I got Vision back online. Yes, I know it was a no-no. You're going to be a slap on the wrist, but I saved the day. So don't my ends justify the means? Right. It was the excuse to get that everything was worth it, I suppose.
Right.
Additionally, I think there's also a component to, okay, this is all very uncharted territory. Oh, he's back and up and running, but what is he capable of? Right. You know, how different is he really? Is he really especially all of the unknowns about how much of Vision is actually there with or without the Soul Stone, all of those kind of questions that everybody's been theorizing about for forever. That stuff doesn't get, fleshed out and answered if they don't stick around to watch and see what the Vision is capable of after they bring him
Right.
back. So,
Yeah. I guess a secondary question that goes along with this is how was he tracking the Vision that was inside?
The vibranium signature.
But he wasn't vibranium. He was made of pure energy.
No. Wanda, because Wanda rewrote stuff. She rewrote matter and everything.
So he was made of vibranium
within the spell, and once the spell broke, that's what Agatha, because it was said, because the spell was imperfect, and you can't fix an imperfect spell after it's already been cast. Okay. So,
I think the thing that I enjoyed, maybe not most, but one of the things that I enjoyed deeply about the show was all of the, I hate to say secondary characters, but the sub characters that they brought to the forefront.
I think Darcy and Jimmy Woo. Darcy was from Thor. Darcy was introduced by Kat Canning. She was introduced in Thor, and she was the plucky sidekick, and she was brought in as the science expert. And Jimmy Woo was the FBI agent introduced in Ant-Man 2.
Arguably just comedic relief.
Right, and they did a really good job, and they threw in Monica.
I love they were great characters. I love it.
And now there's rumors saying that there's going to be an X-Files type show starring those two.
Honestly, I would love that. Honestly, I would love even just a Jimmy Woo show. Like, just give him his own like solo crime solving.
Make him the next Agent Smith connection.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It very well. And I think WandaVision and which I was trying to allude earlier, I think it's a great stepping stone saying, okay, why this universe needed the Sokovia Accords, because you have unchecked superpowers running amok.
So you're on Team Sokovia Accords?
Well, no. It's a very gray area, but I think at the end, I mean,
you kidding me? Absolutely, I was Team Iron Man. You kidding me?
The government literally tried to nuke New York City. You're gonna let the government decide what to do with the Avengers?
Yes.
Oh my god, Dan! Dude, how are you consistently so?
Granted, Hydra was in charge of it too.
Okay. Here's the funny thing. You remember Endgame?
Yeah.
The whole thing that Tony Stark himself got real pissed off about when he said, I'm the one who said we needed a shield around the world, and everybody got angry with me. I'm the one who was saying, no, the government should be able to advocate for and defend the planet and not just this ragtag group of people, because that's what we needed. All of our freedoms, all of our whatever, nobody wanted to listen to me, but that's what we needed. Yeah, clearly. And then Thanos came and destroyed the whole, but if it was went out the window when everybody was dead because none of it mattered anymore. But
if you remember in Endgame, or maybe it was Infinity War. Yeah, it was Infinity War. General Ross was still trying to convince Rhodey to arrest Captain America when he showed back up.
Yeah.
Well, he thought he was in charge, but Rhodey's like, you know what? Yeah. I'm not going to listen to you. Captain America's right on this.
I'm not saying that Captain Ross is like the guy, and I'm okay with him. I'm saying when it comes to the conversation about the division between Captain America and Iron Man, I was definitely with Iron Man on that and not argument. 100%.
Okay.
Watching Civil War, I'm on team.
Yeah, puts me in the minority, so be it.
Watching Civil War, I'm on Team Cap, but watching this, I'm like, Iron Man's got a point. Just saying.
But here's the thing. Everything that happened in this was because she got antagonized by Hayward.
No.
Did she? No.
Yes.
No, that was her own. She went in there, she walked away. And that was her own grief that set it up.
The rapid expanse of it. Yes, what she did was still wrong, but it would have been contained in that small little thing. But he was going in and poking at it.
But he
was going in and poking.
He was poking. He poked the bear.
Right.
he poked the bear. He made it a worse. Yes. So
right.
It could have been handled better. Yeah. So but
here's so Christian, here's this whole conversation about the Sokovia Accords and being held accountable and who's going to hold these super beings in check.
It's going to be super relevant in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going to pick up. Yeah.
And I think this is a conversation that I think has been a really good discussion throughout the comic book world for a long time, and I'm glad that it's being brought up again, because that's when it gets interesting for me.
Yeah,
like the Winter Soldier, my favorite without a doubt. We've been over that. It's one of my favorite all-time favorite Marvel movies because of that very question of, okay, do you trust the big people, or are you enough to hold yourself accountable? What if you can't be trusted? Is there a backup plan for if I can't be trusted with this power?
Right.
You know, that whole check and balance thing is really cool, and it's a great conversation, and I'm glad they're exploring it more. Hopefully they'll do it even more. And
did we lose Dan?
No, I think Dan. Hello. I think we just lost.
Dan. Yep.
My left order is going into it.
But so I think that this is definitely a conversation that is going to become especially more relevant as we approach Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right, which
is something that is clearly going to be a large portion of that, with Baron Zemo coming back and Bucky
Sharon Carter.
Yeah, Sharon Carter, and with Bucky and Sam trying to wrestle with this.
Whatever the thing is, right?
And you've got the rise of U.S. Agent showing up. So it's definitely going to, I think the Sokovia Accords story is by no means done.
I agree. Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be a bigger conversation later, and I can't wait for it to show up.
Yeah. But jumping back to WandaVision itself.
Let's go back.
How do you think well, I just had one quick question. How do you think they're going to make Falcon be able to, in just a very real superhero way, actually fill the shoes of a super charged up super soldier Steve Rogers?
I don't think he's going to. I think it's going to become
you know what I mean?
I think it's going to become a joint Captain America. Captain America is going to become a kind of a symbol that Falcon and Bucky will both represent together.
Maybe.
I think Falcon will represent. Falcon will represent the patriotic kind of everyman side of Captain America, and Bucky will represent the super soldier side of Captain America, and together they will represent what Captain America was always supposed to be. That's my opinion.
I'm looking for Dan. You're going to hate this, but I bought Disney Plus for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm looking more forward to that than Snyder Cut.
We're getting 6 episodes, right?
I don't know.
I think we're only getting 6 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
But that's ever since that car scene in Civil War, can you back up your seat? No. And that fight with Spider-Man, I'm like, I want this, buddy. I'm like, I can't wait for this movie. And they're coming out with 6 episodes on Disney Plus. I'm like, sign me up, take my money now. So
we're getting 6 episodes.
Yeah,
Falcon Winter Soldier.
So
let me. I just finally pulled up to my house here. Let me bounce out and I'll jump back on here.
Some back in.
Yep.
All right.
But
so that being said,
jumping back to WandaVision while we're waiting for Dan to jump back in.
Yeah.
What would you say was your favorite episode?
My favorite episode in terms of
just start to finish that episode in a bubble. What was your favorite episode?
The Halloween episode.
Yeah.
I love the Halloween episode because it showed the potential of what the twins can become someday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It showed the classic costumes. It was that Malcolm in the Middle episode. And I think Evan Peters did a great job.
So good.
As what he did. And I am so glad it was a fake out.
You know what? I'm going to wait for Dan to come back for this one before we dive into that. I don't think it was a fake out. I think they're faking us out by making us think it was a fake out, but we'll get to that.
I thought it was I hope it's a fake out. Yeah. Whatever the case may be, I'm happy with the fake out, but we can go back into that.
Yeah, we'll jump
so what was your favorite episode?
Me personally, it's a tie between, I would agree, the Halloween episode or the Modern Family episode.
Well, okay.
Kind of when it fully got to modern day and you really saw the cracks starting to form, and you got to see like everything flickering and like going rapidly through all the eras. And that was obviously the episode with the big Agatha reveal.
It was Agatha all along.
Which, props to Disney for getting Robert and Kristen Lopez.
Yes, the writers of
the masterminds behind the Frozen soundtrack, the masterminds behind
Coco.
I don't think the entirety of Coco, but I know for sure, or at least Remember Me, I believe.
Yeah, so they got Remember Me from Coco, but they were behind all of those theme songs.
At every single one of the opening themes, the Agatha All Along theme, all of the music for this show, they are gold. Everything Disney related that those two have touched has turned to gold.
They got the Midas touch when it comes to this. They are definitely hand in hand Disney, and I am so glad they signed them on for this.
They are to modern day Disney what Elton John was to like the 90s era Disney, and what oh my gosh, I'm drawing a complete blank. The guy who did the music for Tarzan.
Oh, Phil Collins.
Phil Collins, yes.
Well, again,
everything that they touched was gold.
Yeah. Yes. But there's also the songwriters of Disney, and I'm forgetting their names. And I'm going to rewatch my Vault of Disney stuff. The guys who wrote The Little Mermaid and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
they were all that.
Oh yeah, well, then even going like the brothers who wrote like the Mary Poppins music and all
these
of
two are
Disney has a long track record of hiring great songwriters and musical, and composers and musical artists. They have a great history of that. And I think it was just, for me, I would say it's a tie between the Halloween episode and the Modern Family episode. Both of those are fantastic. I don't think there was a bad episode, honestly.
No, I don't think there was a bad. I thought the finale, and again, COVID rushed things. 100%. They had to let things up. There was the bunny senior. I forgot what his name.
Senior Scratchy was supposed to be a big deal. There was supposed to be a whole subplot. Because there was an entire episode that was cut. There was supposed to be 10 episodes. And so there was an entire subplot with the twins, Darcy and Ralph.
Pietro. Right.
Who were gonna be going to try to steal the Darkhold from
Agatha. That was Agatha's Ralph that she was always talking about. Yeah, exactly. I thought that was funny. So
yeah, it was. And so I would say those would be one of my favorites. I would say if I had to pick a least favorite episode, I would say it would probably be the first one.
The Dick Van Dyke version.
Yeah. Just because it didn't really, it didn't do much, which I understand was the point.
That was the whole, and I thought it was very, but in terms of style, cinematography, the writing, the acting across the board with Paul Bettany and Lizzie Olsen.
If they don't at least both get nominated for an Emmy, it's a crime.
and I listen to a lot of podcasts just trying to get other people's opinions, and they're talking about, the writing wasn't of the good, but the actors made it good.
You can tell, even from watching interviews with the both of them, that they both really understand these characters on a deep level, and that they both really connect with these characters. Yeah. And you can see the chemistry between the two of them is magic.
Right. Definitely.
It's fantastic. And so, ultimately, I don't think there was a bad episode. I really don't. Every episode served its purpose.
Yeah. And I think Dan's going to take a while getting back on. So, but in terms of, let's talk about the Scarlet Witch. So they made a big thing that does Wanda Maximoff have a secret code name? And Jimmy Woo's like, nope, no secret code name. She's just Wanda Maximoff. And the big reveal was that she is the Scarlet Witch.
Right. A witch who was prophesized witch who is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme.
Which is the only reference to Doctor Strange we got, and everyone was expecting.
Which apparently he filmed a scene, but they cut it.
Okay, yeah.
Apparently he filmed a scene and they cut it, which leads me to believe one of two things: either A, because they're not going to be going directly into Doctor Strange, and because we've got Spider-Man wedging the gap between the two of them. Okay. That whatever his scene was supposed to be,
it's going to
wouldn't make sense before Spider-Man.
Right. And again, they're probably rewriting, and Marvel has pivoted, like things have happened to actors to, like Chadwick Boseman. Right. They've had these plans, and they've pivoted.
Or his scene was so CGI heavy that they just didn't have time to finish it.
Right. And
so they were like, you know what? We're not going to waste all this time and money on this one scene cameo for him.
Right. Right. And I think in the end, it was fine. My only gruff about the series is that they just let Wanda go. And again, they might reference it in an Easter egg or in a throwaway line in one of the future episodes. But I was a little disappointed that she left all of her meat puppets alone. And they're trying to set her up as a hero. That was my biggest thing. So,
I don't think they were trying to set her up as a hero at all.
Well, they're trying to make.
You literally saw the entire town turned against her. None of them were okay with her. But what happened was the people who were outside the town, specifically Jimmy and Darcy and Monica, who weren't experiencing that. Monica, who got a little bits and pieces of it when she was in there. But you have these people who only know her as this hero, and they know what she went through. And so they're seeing her from a more sympathetic point of view as somebody who experienced all of this trauma. But the people who don't know her and who have no personal connection to her are seeing her for what she is, which is somebody who caused a lot of harm. So I don't think by any means they made her the hero at the end of the story. I think that she literally, she had the end of that final episode is her basically in hiding. She's in seclusion. She's in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nowhere, hiding from everybody. She dipped because the police, the FBI came and showed up at the very end, and I guarantee you they would have arrested her.
I think, and by the way, there's theories, and it makes sense that she ended up in Sokovia, that little cabin. It's not in Antarctica. She's back in Sokovia in a little isolated cabin somewhere. Well, the land's still there.
Sokovia exploded.
But yeah, now it's all just wilderness.
It just reformed and mountains formed? Well, I don't know.
Again, we're going to find out, but whatever. I don't know if I buy that. I think the other thing I was having that kind of brought me, because there's always that you have to let go some of your expectations.
Yeah.
How did those three characters, Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy, have detailed accounts of the endgame battlefield?
Easy. We have at least 3 people in that fight that we know have cameras on them.
Which was
Iron Man,
Rescue,
and War Machine.
but they weren't always there. They weren't like front and center.
But they were around the battle. Between the three of their footages pieced together, and I'm probably pretty sure that probably Spider-Man had footage. He probably had a camera in his suit as well. So I feel pretty confident that between those security footage cameras, that they could probably have pieced together that entire fight. I feel extremely confident in that.
All right, I'll let that part slide.
But I do see what you're saying. It is something that they could have easily explained. They could have easily just been like, oh yeah, with the footage we got from the Iron Man suits.
Right, or that they released
a quick explanation. But here's the thing too. They're not general population by any means.
No,
these are all high-ranking military people.
Well, FBI director, just a science. I don't think someone from a college or someone from a local university.
Director. He's just he's a high-ranking FBI agent.
Right.
You got an FBI agent. You've got a high-ranking sword person, which the Monica one is a little confusing to me. She just got unblipped like 2 weeks ago, and the first thing she does is go and watch all of this. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but and then Darcy, who is a high-profile, obviously she got sent to go do this.
Right.
So between the three of them, it's not like it's not like there was general population people who knew everything about what went down about that battle. These were all people who had high level clearance.
I'll let that slide. I'll let that go. I think the next thing I want to bring up is: do you think that this is the the Scarlet Witch, what we were talking about earlier, the supreme witch being who's forged, not born, who doesn't need a covet or doesn't need incantations? Is this their version of the Phoenix Force?
No, I don't think so.
Or leading into a House. Eventually, I think this might lead into like House M or whatever they want to lead into.
Yeah, I don't think this is their Phoenix Force by any means. I think it's just because I think if anything, this was their small backdoor gateway into being able to loop mutants in.
It very well could be.
You ease it in with saying that witches existed, which up until now we didn't know.
Wizards, sorcerers.
Yeah, sorcerers, but we didn't know witches existed. And sorcerers were people, like witches, people so to know that there are these other magic people out there as well.
Right.
So, and to know that Wanda had these powers from a young age, and that
they were amplified.
Right, they were amplified, which
by
then which begs the question: if every other test subject had died,
right,
and she was able to live because she had these lingering powers, why did Pietro survive as well?
I think the theories I was reading online and some of the blog posts, she willed it because that was her brother.
She when she connected with the stone, she almost gave it some of her power to allow him to survive.
Correct. That was kind of like, because she has that connection to all the stones and all the commercials. And there's some Ryan Airy, his YouTube videos do awesome breakdowns. All the commercials have a connection, or all those sub commercials, either about a bad point in her life, or it's a connection to an Infinity Stone.
Yeah, no, I don't even think it needs to connect to the Infinity Stones necessarily. They're just literally all her processing through her trauma.
No, but like the Cuba soap, Hydra soap, if you look at it, there's like it's the color blue.
Yeah, it's definitely,
there's some definite hues. There's definitely
hues. It definitely might be a more subtle thing.
As again, just subtle references, but not like.
I think the more blatant intended reference with those was definitely the trauma, the stages of trauma through her life. You got the first one that was about the Stark bomb. Right. The second one that was about them joining Hydra.
Yep.
The third one that was about the her time then being experimented on.
Right.
The fourth one that was her blowing up the building.
Mm-hmm.
The fifth one, which was her power being sucked away.
Oh,
You got the sixth one,
and-
which was the Nexus pills, which was
Which
basically
is-
creating the false reality.
well, and you got to snap back out of it.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so you've got all of those which were basically processing through the stages that led her to where she is today. And so it's definitely, you could definitely sense the subtleties that are connecting it to
Yes.
the Infinity Stones, but I don't necessarily know if that might not have been the blatant.
I don't think it was. Yeah, I don't think it was blatant, but the writers threw that in there, and a very meta part of it. Again, this is a very meta show. All the at the end credits of each of the episodes that they saw on the show was actually people that worked on the WandaVision show, were real life names,
right?
So, which was very meta, a show within a show,
right? Exactly, and so. I think even though this wasn't intended to be the kicking off point for Phase 4, I think the show still does a very good job at setting up multiple stories for us to follow in Phase 4. You've got Monica, who's going off to outer space to join Nick Fury.
And the rest of the Skrulls.
So there, she's going to be in the was that Secret Invasion? Is that what the one that they're doing?
Secret Invasion, and she's going to become the hero Photon.
Which, that's the question. Does she still have her powers?
Yes.
How do we know?
Because one, her DNA was rewritten several times, and they said that, look, if you go through one more time, your powers or your DNA is going to be rewritten on a level.
But if it was rewritten by technically Wanda rewrote and created the Vision. So if everything else that got created by all of this magic got destroyed, why would her power stay? Simply because she went through it so many times?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point, because she went through it once, twice, and a third time.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that makes sense.
Her DNA was modified. Everything was even the clothes she came out were still modified outside. She was wearing Kevlar,
right?
And then,
were they still modified once the hex got destroyed? Though that's my question.
We don't know, but knowing Marvel, this was the kickoff point. And Monica Rambeau is supposed to be in Captain Marvel 4. Or sorry, Captain Marvel 2. We're not that far yet. We're not.
What happened to 2 and 3? Yeah, so I definitely think she's obviously going to go be in that Secret Invasion show. 100% she'll show up in Captain Marvel 2.
Yep.
And then
I think she's going to have her powers.
Yeah, it would. I mean, that would make sense. Yeah, that would 100% make sense. And then I have very little doubts, and you maybe feel free to argue with me if you feel otherwise. I have no doubts that this will not be the last time we see Agatha Harkness.
Oh no, they left the door open.
Yeah, she's like, you stay here. I'll come get you if I need.
I'll come get you, and then they can come back and doctor like, hey, I need to learn about this, or I need you, whatever. Yeah. No, I'm totally on board with that. I don't think they left the door. They would have killed her off.
Yeah. I think personally, Doctor Strange 2, we're gonna get Baron Mordo looping back around, and he's gonna go and actually break her out, essentially, of her curse spell, and he's gonna recruit her. And I think that's where we'll end that'll be the end credit scene in Doctor Strange 2.
That will
be Baron Mordo walking up to her house and knocking on the door. And she'll open the door, and he'll be like, "I need your help," and he'll be like, wave his fingers, and you'll see the
"What's up, good stuff?"
Yeah,
and I see you first.
Yeah, and you'll see the thing go across her eyes, and she'll kind of snap out of it, and then that'll be where they end the end credits. That's my prediction. That's what I'm throwing it out in the universe.
I'm not going to fight you on that. I think that's a solid prediction. I think there's so many predictions out there people can get wrong, and I'm happy not everyone's prediction. Some people got it right, some people got it wrong, and I'm happy not everything came, to light, and not everything had to happen in the series.
Well, I think here's the thing: a lot of people, Disney and Marvel, never promised that Mephisto would be in the show. They never, cast anybody as Mephisto. They never announced Mephisto was going to be in the show.
Well, they're trying to keep Evan Peters quiet too.
Right. So so here's the thing. Everything else had leaked, basically. It was pretty much leaked that Evan Peters was going to show up. It was pretty much leaked that Agnes was Agatha Harkness. Like,
right.
that was all leaked or heavily speculated. But the one thing that never made sense to me was this Mephisto connection. There was nothing hinting at it. And even 8 episodes in, people were still like, oh, Mephisto's going to show up in episode 9. Mephisto's going to show up in episode 9. That would have made no sense. And
I think that would have been overkill.
Because for the common Marvel fan,
right,
Mephisto means nothing to them. And so for this entire show to have been built up and be leading to a Wanda and Agnes showdown, and then all of a sudden for Agnes to be like, surprise, I'm working for the devil. Like, it made no sense. And you have so many people who were so convinced that this is what was going to be happening that they let themselves down when it didn't happen.
You have precedent for something like that. If you remember Avengers, Loki got the scepter and then came back, so he was working for someone. So there's precedent for people to think that. But I'm very happy that Agatha was working on her own. Yeah, because that would have just been all right. And now another villain in the story. So they kept it clean.
Right.
They kept it
clean.
They kept it clean.
And like, seriously, like, you think 6, 7, 8, because people were still predicting it literally up to before the final episode aired. You think 8 episodes into a 9-episode season and series, they're going to reveal that the big bad was somebody we've never met? No.
Yeah. No, I think it's, as an end credits scene, you can definitely do that.
Right. You end credits, a tease for the setup for
like they did in Avengers. But again, I'm very happy what they did. I mean, I thought the finale was a little clunky, but you know what? Overall, I was happy with it.
We can understand that.
Right. Where do you think Doctor Strange, what's your predictions, theories? Where was Doctor Strange? Why didn't he, if he's supposed to be keeping tabs on all these powerful people and everyone knows everyone, and in theory, why didn't Doctor Strange show up? Like everyone says, like, where was Iron Man? Where are all these buddies? Like when the Marvel Cinematic Universe first started, why isn't everyone merging together? Where was Doctor Strange in this? What's your theory?
Especially because it's Jersey and he's in New York.
And he keep tabs on all powerful people.
Well, right, and that's the thing. Like, he knew Loki was in New York after like 6 seconds in Thor Ragnarok.
Right.
So, I guess if I had, with no rhyme or reason to this opinion at all, just pure base opinion. If I had to,
your opinion, just your.
I think he knew that she needed to go through that, and I think he was waiting. And if it would have gotten to a point where he felt like it was a danger to anybody outside of this one small town in New Jersey, he would have intervened. But I think he was content to let her process her grief as long as it was a contained incident.
I think that's a very smart, because look at Endgame. He wasn't trying to control it. Out of 14 billion possibilities, out of all the chaos, he was trying to play the long game. I'm going to give you the Infinity Stone. Right. So he's willing to play those chess games. So I can definitely see
another
that.
Possibility is this is literally like 2 weeks after.
Yeah, no.
He's still cleaning up shit. Like, that's another possibility. Like, he's still like putting the pieces back together after having been gone for 5 years.
Right.
And, Wong has been doing the best he can for the last 5 years. And so he's
busy.
Still trying to he's busy. He's trying to piece together all the broken, shattered pieces of the last 5 years.
Right, all the dimensions and all that stuff, because everything's so messed up now. Because
and he's got to make sure that all the timelines are back in order, that all the stones got returned properly.
Right. Look at at the end. What did he say at the in Spider-Man Far From Home? Where was Doctor Strange? Not available.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And that's 6 months from now.
6 months from WandaVision.
Far From Home takes place 6 months after Endgame. WandaVision takes place 2 to 3 weeks. So my theory as well is I think Doctor Strange 2 is going to take place simultaneously with Far From Home.
Solid. All right.
And because I mean, obviously, for anybody who hasn't seen Spider-Man Far From Home yet, first off, what have you been doing? That was like 2 years ago. Second off, the end of it obviously is with Peter Parker's identity getting revealed,
Right.
and him being accused of murder. And so I would feel extremely confident that Spider-Man No Way Home is gonna be a couple of days after that, if at most. A week, maybe. Like, I can't imagine they're just going to jump us like 3 months later while he's been on the run for 3 months.
Or like, hiding it with Pepper Potts.
Right.
I'm going to take you in. Let me hide you.
Right. They've got to pick us up very, very close after that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need that immediate guttural reaction to this entire thing happening. We need to see all those steps take place. And so if that is the case, and if that takes place right after Far From Home, then that would enable Doctor Strange to take place right in that same time frame, which explains why he's not available to help with Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
And then would explain whatever he's doing that'll connect to Spider-Man.
Right. So again, I was just asking. I don't have any theories. Yeah. I'm just asking, what are your thoughts on...
Those would be my two thoughts. Either A, he was just putting the pieces back together of everything that had fallen apart after Endgame, or he was content to let her work out her grief as long as it didn't affect the larger...
And playing that chess game.
Or universe, yeah.
It's like, you know what? I'm going to let her play it out. I'm seeing this happen right now. I don't have the time stone, but I know what's going to, or maybe he did. He saw the time stone and he looked a little bit further past into this timeline. He's like, yeah, I saw this coming. So I'm just going to let it play out. So,
right. And that's the interesting thing too, is technically speaking, Doctor Strange doesn't have the time stone anymore.
No, but how far, when he was looking into those possibilities, how far?
So that does limit his ability to see what's going to be happening.
But he can still though play chess. He can still play the odds.
Exactly. So he can still, but so it might limit some of his ability to know ramifications of what's going to happen. And so that might lead him to, you said, play chess a little more with things, because he can't just go, oh, Wanda's screwing up this town. Let me go see if I should stop her or not. It's more of a, well, let's wait and see how this plays out and see if I need to get involved, because I have no doubt through all of his research, he probably already knew who she was.
Oh yeah. I don't think she was, I think Doctor Strange is no chump, like, or especially after watching, like, hey, I just saw her in battle. We all had trouble fighting Thanos.
She almost
killed him. I'm going to, and watching her powers, I'm going to keep an extra eye on her. Like Agatha, like, I don't have all the pieces. I got to see more of what's happening. Right. So, well, again, I think it makes sense that Wanda and Doctor Strange are going to be together in the next movie. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Jumping ahead.
Yeah.
So the finale.
The
second post-credit scene that we got.
The one where she is in the mountains and her astral form she's
astrally projecting while she's awake, which is impressive, because we see in Doctor Strange he's able to astral project while he's sleeping.
Right.
But she's able to astral project while she's drinking tea, sitting on the steps.
Right.
Hanging out. She's astral projecting herself into the back room, reading the Darkhold.
Right.
And so, and you hear at the very end of that the voices
of the twins
calling out for help. And so the immediate question becomes one of two things. Either A, is that actually them calling out for help? Right. Or is something tricking her? Because Agatha says you have no idea what you've unleashed.
Right.
So is that, I mean, who knows? Maybe down the line, could this be Mephisto? That's
right. Which is
now, or is this
whatever version of it?
Whatever version, are they going to go Mephisto? Are they going to go with Nightmare? Are they going to bring Dormammu back from the first? Whatever
they could do, whatever they want to do. They got possibilities.
Whatever otherworldly entity that they want to bring into this story, is this one of those tricking her? Or is this genuinely the twins? Because in the comics, they have pieces of Mephisto's soul,
right?
they have to destroy all of the pieces of Mephisto's soul. And by doing so, they kill the twins. But in reality, what happens is the twins, their portions of their soul actually get sent back in time and into other people's bodies. And so what happens is they get sent back about, I think it was 15 years into the past.
I'm not too keen on the twins. I know what happens, what they become, but I don't know all the details.
They get sent, I think it's like 15 years but into the past or something like that, and grow up before all of this. And so shortly after the events of House of M with the twins dying, Wanda realizes, she senses the twins are still out there. And she finds them as these two completely separate people who have lived their own individual lives with these mutant powers. And she's missed them growing up. They are young adults now at this point. She missed their entire childhoods.
Which is a very X-Men trope, because Cable, one of my favorite X-Men characters, was born in the present, was infected with the techno-organic virus, sent to the future to grow up, and then Rachel Summers, the future Phoenix Force, comes back in the past, steals the souls of Scott and Jean and puts them in another couple to raise Nathan Summers. But that's a whole different story. But that totally is with the mutant concept.
So is it something along those lines? Or is this more a kind of like they're trapped in some sort of weird limbo? Who knows?
Well,
but I think it's very, very, very clear that Marvel is leading up to a young Avengers.
Oh, with the new Hawkeye,
you've got
Miss Marvel.
Yeah, you've got Miss Marvel. You got the new Hawkeye. You've got the twins. You've got Cassie Lang. Yeah, no, between just the five of them alone, that's a young Avengers squad right there.
I totally.
And with the rumor that we're supposed to get the debut of, I forget his name, but there is a young Captain America replacement as well, and supposedly he might be debuting in Falcon Winter Soldier.
He's the child of Chris and of whatchamacallit, Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter.
Yes.
Okay, look. If I think your theory will be solid. If that kid shows up at the end or somewhere in there, I'll say, yes, they're setting up a young Avengers.
Even if not, just the five of them alone. They recasted Cassie Lang with a more prominent actress, which clearly means she's going to have a larger role.
Right.
It's Ant-Man's powers aren't organic.
No,
she could very easily. They're mechanical. She could very easily take some PIM particles and a suit and become her superhero form, which I think it's called Stature, I believe is what she's called.
Something like that.
So between her, you got her, you've got what is the girl in Hawkeye called? What's her name?
I'm gonna forget. I just know her from she was the girl in the Bumblebee movie.
Yes. What is her character's name?
You'll have to go because I got too much stuff going on. I'm going to change our images here. So if you're online, if you're watching the podcast, if you're not watching the podcast, I have a PowerPoint going on of just sometimes I'm gliding through some of the images of WandaVision, the poster and the media materials. And right now I'm focusing on Kate Bishop. That's the name
Bishop is her name. That is the name of the young lady in the Hawkeye series who will be,
but not the actress.
No, the actress. The actress's name is Haley Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld. Yes.
Yes. But the character's name is Kate Bishop. She's going to be taking on the role of Hawkeye essentially. So you'll have Hawkeye. You'll have Cassie Lang, the daughter of Ant-Man. You'll have the twins, daughters of the sons of Vision and Wanda, and you'll have Miss Marvel.
Right.
Those five alone can easily be a young Avengers squad.
I totally think they're planning the young Avengers. They're planting the seeds. It's just you gotta look past this phase and it will come up. So, and if they can keep on those young actors, because what's the point of having a young Avengers if all those Avengers are already adults?
Right.
So again, I think you have to find, we'll have to see how fast everything.
Yeah. Well,
follows
and then
up.
did you see, because I know you were talking about the mutants coming into the MCU.
Right.
Did you see that Kevin Feige said they probably won't ever utilize the X-Men name for branding their movies?
I did not hear that. I heard something like there's a mutants movie or Disney Plus show coming.
He said that their currently internal process is referring to them as the mutants. He said that he feels like the X-Men name has been so watered down in the public eye that he doesn't want these expectations coming in for them to just be retreading the materials that they've already seen 2 times. And so he said
3 times sometimes.
Yeah, true. So, but he said that he wants people to go in understanding what the world that they're connecting in by bringing mutants in is, but doesn't want people to go in expecting the X-Men story, which I think is a smart decision because twofold. One, as much as it pains me to say this, unless we get a multiverse version, we're not getting Magneto in the MCU. We aren't. Unless he comes from a multiverse, we're not getting Magneto. Because Magneto's entire backstory, his entire character, is connected to the Holocaust. Who he is as a person is being a survivor of the Holocaust. That's his entire character story. That's how his powers originated. That is what he is designed to be, is to not let anybody do to other people the same things that happened to him during the Holocaust.
Right.
And so obviously we're in 2026 now in the MCU timeline. We're not going to get a 95-year-old Magneto showing up.
Right.
So either we're going to get a multiverse Magneto coming in who is younger, because in his timeline it's only 1975. And he'll come in, or we just won't get Magneto.
I think now that you say the mutants, and I kind of see, and I've been having this lingering feeling that I don't think that I just lost my train of thought. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying?
Mutants, you don't think they're going to be something?
No. Again, I think the X-Men have been branded down.
Yeah.
I think my train of thought was, now that DC is doing a multiverse, because their whole thing is, doesn't matter what you watch. If you watch something different, if you watch Joker, another universe. You watch this Superman, another universe. You watch Snyder Cut, another universe. Doesn't matter. They all exist. They've all pointed it out in the CW. They've all interconnected it. Yeah. It's great. Great. That's what we're doing. Is Marvel going to follow that formula? I think Kevin Feige's smarter than that. I don't think they're going to go. I don't think they're going to go for a lazy trope than that. So what you were saying makes sense, that it's just going to be the mutants and whatever spawns from that. So they can spawn X-Force. They can spawn
whatever mutants they want.
Whatever mutants or mutant teams, whatever.
Connected to having to do Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Magneto, Professor X.
And you can still do them, but just not.
It doesn't have to be that group of them.
Right.
It gives them much more flexibility to bring in whatever mutants they want in whatever form they want.
Right, and more flexibility, so that you can't say, "Well, they didn't do it this way." Well, no, this is like Peter Parker.
And I've heard multiple rumors.
I think we just lost Christian there, everyone. So we're going to wait back. I'm going to get back for him. So hopefully it's not me, but we are still broadcasting live. We're going to wait for Christian to come back. Looks like he's having a little technical difficulties here. So just going back here, we're talking about WandaVision right now. And we're talking about the mutants. Christian's back. All right.
Okay, we're back.
All right. Sorry about that technical difficulties, but you were saying.
So I've heard rumors that there is apparently talk internally at Marvel about changing Magneto's race and having.
Okay. Uh-oh. We lost Christian again, but I like where he was going. I'm going to guess what he was saying is changing Magneto's race to make it more sense with the character.
Have somebody who went through the Martin Luther King upbringing, and somebody who a black person who brought who went through that journey and who survived that era, instead of the Holocaust survivor, which is definitely a possibility.
I think if you get the essence of the character, I think that's the most important thing. Is you can take can make him Muslim, make him going through through persecute, make him
whatever
the case may be.
His character is about persecution, and and bringing down those who are oppressing. But for me, I feel like his character is so strongly connected to that Jewish heritage that I don't personally think it's likely that they'll do that, but you don't know. But so I think we're a few years off still from mutants.
They're for a while. They might be hinting at it. They might be doing anything like that. We might see
maybe one pop up here or there, but I think we are a couple of years off from before we get an official mutants movie. So looking a little bit more right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I want to see. I'm sorry. Say that again, Christian.
I was going to say, so looking a little bit more right now, bringing us back a little bit, focusing a little bit more on WandaVision before we dive too far in to the future. Overall, start to finish, was there anything that you were disappointed that didn't come up in WandaVision?
No, I think I was happy with it. I would have been happy if if I know they had all these teases like, oh, I'm going to get my aerospace engineer friend to come out and help me. And it was just an engineer from SWORD, and it wasn't Reed Richards. So I was kind of like,
but here's the thing. They never, it was literally just, hey, I know an aerospace engineer who can help us.
And again, it got buzz going.
Right.
Marvel was trolling us, and they were playing the system, which worked to their advantage.
Which, speaking of trolling, Paul Bettany, the master trollman.
That was an awesome troll.
Was the awesome troll. He had been hyping for weeks that there was this actor that he'd always wanted to work with who had a cameo in the final episode. And
so
he didn't think that it was going to go off. He didn't think it was going to become this huge thing. And so it ultimately ended up being himself.
Right. And everyone was thinking oh, he always wanted to work with Robert De Niro, and Robert De Niro is going to show up as Mephisto.
Right. Or people were like, oh, he always wanted to work with Ian McKellen. So Ian McKellen Magneto is coming back, or all of these things. But ultimately, he was just trolling people, and he wanted to work with himself. And
which was
work with himself.
Which was awesome, which is fun. Yeah. I had, not to say low expectations, but I was like, okay, let's see what happens. I want a good story. It ended up being a good story. Like I said, finale was a little clunky in my opinion. Yeah. But otherwise,
it's understandable.
It was fine.
It's understandably clunky. When you look at that episode and realize that the only scene where there was more than one person who wasn't CGI in that episode, and that was the group scene.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all 6 feet apart from each other, perfectly diagonally spaced.
Oh, I have not noticed that. I did not notice that.
So go back and watch that episode, and you'll see when the group is closing on Wanda, they are perfectly spaced in a one here, one up to the front, diagonal, one diagonal from them to the back, one up to the front diagonal. They are perfectly diagonally spaced in a circle around her to make it look like they're closing in, but they're actually, like, when they do the pan out, you can see each of them is like 6 feet away from each other, perfectly diagonally going around the circle.
Oh, I did not catch that. That's a good catch.
And otherwise, every other scene in that episode is like one actor by themselves, or two actors who one of them is CGI. Well, you've got Wanda and Vision who are together. He's CGI. You got Wanda and Agatha are together. She's CGI because she's flying, or they're flying in the air.
They're both flying, so they have to be CGI.
Otherwise, it's only just one person on camera at any given time.
I did not notice that, huh?
And so that's why, because Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to come out before WandaVision.
Right.
And so they both were filming at the time when the lockdown happened and COVID hit. And so they were able to find a way to film the last episode of WandaVision with COVID protocols and get it out. I'm sure Falcon Winter Soldier has a lot more fight scenes, a lot more fist-to-fist combat, a lot more close-up encounters than WandaVision. So it's probably much, much harder to film with COVID protocols in place. Especially the super strict COVID protocols right when this started hitting originally.
Right. Because they took a while to get that back into production.
Oh, it was a while. It was a solid, I think, probably 6 months.
Yeah, I think so I'll be interested to see it, but that's going to be something I'm going to be looking out for. So thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably for the last maybe 2 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier to see like spacing, that sort of stuff, because I didn't notice it until I was actually watching a video on TikTok with somebody breaking it down, and they mentioned it, and I went back and watched it, and you can very clearly see the camera angles that they're throwing you to make it look like there's multiple people in one scene, or make it look like everybody's crowded together, but in reality it's just like 12 people who are just scattered around. And then you've got the scene where Wanda and Vision at the end are, hand on each other's cheek, but it's only ever showing one of them at a time. And then when it does show them both from the side, I mean, it's very easy to mix that together.
Do I have any images that are 6 feet apart? Well, again, that's one of the last episodes. Again, the whole Incredibles, Easter egg.
Okay, but Vision is CGI right there.
Is he?
He's got to be.
I don't know.
You know what? Even if he's not, they could all literally be 4 different shots right there spliced together.
Oh yeah, and here's the thing too, with tight quote. I mean, Thor: Love and Thunder's filming right now.
Yeah,
and but their New Zealand has super strict protocols.
Yeah,
so that I think after there, everyone was quarantined for 2 weeks. Everyone's okay. So a lot of them are filming maskless, and New Zealand has been COVID
but
very low COVID instances.
For this process, it was a lot more restrictive. They had to work their way around stuff, and so it was. And
it was earlier. It was early in the pandemic where much wasn't as known.
Exactly. But so I think ultimately, I guess, would you want to see a second season?
No,
I agree.
No. I think it dilutes. We're getting her and Wanda, have her show up in other things, have the repercussions show up in different things. I do not want to have a WandaVision 2 for the sake of she has another breakdown and does the whole thing again.
Well, you see that because of the massive public support for this, that apparently there's talks of greenlighting a solo movie for her.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with doing a solo movie, doing something different,
where she story, bringing it forward. I don't think there's a way to do a second season for this.
No, this was no.
A show like Falcon and Winter Soldier. I mean, barring whatever happens in the show, that's a very easy show to expect there could be multiple seasons of.
I can definitely see that. I can see Bucky and Falcon.
Yeah, shows coming up like She-Hulk or Hawkeye.
Multiple.
Easy to see multiple seasons coming from those shows.
Yes.
But a show like WandaVision, which is so unique and so out there and so one of a kind, I can't even imagine a way they would do a second season, nor can I imagine that they would sacrifice the quality of what they provided by bringing a second season in. And this picture right here, for those of you who are listening to the podcast version, we have the picture up of right after Wanda has transformed into her full Scarlet Witch costume. This costume is magnificent.
Very Magneto-like, by the way.
Very Magneto-like.
And they weren't hinting at this in the media posters too. Like there is those TV,
the TV
with the
monitors.
TV shots,
and I think one of the other pictures you have shows that.
Yeah, and
I think it's one of the earlier ones, but this is one of the earlier ones. This costume is superb.
They did a good job.
Because obviously we saw in the Halloween episode, the traditional Scarlet Witch costume is so outdated. It's so misogynistic. It's ridiculous.
Even what they were doing, the translation for Avengers and all, she was always wearing the girdles and the tight clothes. Yeah. I mean, and that one again, they were trying to make her hip, up to whatever, realistic. This is a true Scarlet Witch.
This is a classy Scarlet Witch costume.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look out of place either. That's the thing. And that is
great in the Marvel universe.
That is something that's, for the most part, there are a few exceptions. For the most part, Marvel has done so good.
What are your exceptions?
Oh gosh. Whiplash in Iron Man 2.
Or Whiplash. I know what you're saying about
Rourke. His thing made no sense. His weird exoskeleton chest thing into the thing, it made no sense. It wasn't practical. It didn't provide any defense. It didn't make sense for what his character was supposed to be.
So in the movie, at first I thought it made sense because he had limited supplies. He's working by himself. He went to go attack Iron Man. This is what I am. Yeah. But I can see that being not very practical.
And I would say that's one of the big ones. I would say there was a couple. I had other ones in my mind, and now I'm just blank. Which always seems to be how it is. Like you have a point you want to make, and then your mind just
you have a point. It happened to me earlier, yeah. So
we'll circle back around. I'll think about it. We'll circle back.
We'll circle about that. But anyway,
this costume.
This is a good costume.
Perfect, and especially seeing it in that last scene when she's astrally projecting, and just the glow around it and the red, and it's phenomenal. And the subtleties in how they handled everything between that last encounter with her and Agatha.
Right.
So good, and props to Kathryn Hahn too, because she's an actress who is, I would say mostly known for her comedic roles. Right. And she was brought also in this serious, partially comedic relief when she was, in the earlier versions of herself as Agnes.
She was always fun. Throughout the entire, up until the reveal, she was always on humorous, point, funny, but she was humorous, fantastic. And I didn't know this till she was also the voice of Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So I'm like, all right, so she already has superhero credits.
Two fantastic villain reveals.
Yeah,
and you know what? It's the casting was spot on for all of this. The acting was phenomenal. Like I said, if Elizabeth Olsen herself, at least, does not get an Emmy nomination, that is a crime. And I would argue that Paul Bettany should get one as well.
All this stuff is always. I want them to. I want more stuff. I want more of this stuff to be more recognized. But I mean, literally, the Halloween elites are to have sticks up their butts.
Yes, but I think the fact that the streaming shows have started to take such a more prominent role in award shows will give this a better shot.
Yeah, but it's a superhero genre.
for it. I don't have a ton of hope for it. I want it to happen, but ultimately, I mean, there's a reason why a bunch of the most successful movies of all time have never been nominated for any awards.
I thought
There's
Logan
a reason.
was
There's
snubbed.
a reason. Yeah, Logan was snubbed. Avengers Endgame was snubbed. Didn't get nominated for anything except for visual effects. Literally all of the Harry Potter movies when they came out were only nominated for visual effects and costuming. Like there is a good reason why the only quote unquote nerdy movie of all time to win Best Picture is Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Didn't Star Wars?
I don't think so. I'll look it up. While you had a point you were getting ready to make.
No, I totally forgot. I mean, and I totally forgot my point if I was going to make one. Oh, I was just going about Logan got snubbed. That was the last point when we were talking about that. So, which I think is one of the probably the best X-Men movie.
They got nominated for a handful of things.
They got nominated, but I think it got snubbed.
Yeah,
I think it should have won other ones.
They got nominated for Best Picture. Alec Guinness got nominated for Supporting Actor. George Lucas got nominated for Best Director, and then a bunch of other, smaller categories, visual effects and that sort of stuff.
Right.
But award shows have a history of not supporting the quote unquote nerdy genre. Your sci-fis, your fantasies, your comic books, in that sort of realm. And so jumping into something that I was hoping we'd be able to wait for Dan. He's got some stuff going on, so I'm not sure if he'll be able to jump back in with us or not. So 2 points that I wanted to jump into here.
Go for it.
Both of them revolving around fake Pietro, Ralph.
Okay, I'm going to go. Yes, I'm going to go to my picture of him when I have. So here we go. Fake Pietro.
Yes, fake Pietro on the left, real Pietro on the right. This is him. This is now both of them technically Evan Peters. We've got 2 different pictures here. So this one is showing the comparison between both of the Quicksilvers that we've seen in the MCU. The next one is showing him as Quicksilver in the Fox X-Men movies.
Evan Peters,
and then showing him now in WandaVision. I have 2 points that I would like to make about him, and then and then jump in and counterpoint me, or agree or disagree, or tell me I'm stupid, whatever you want.
No, yes, right. No, I'm right.
First one being, I do not think he was a fake out. I think we are getting double fake out. I think that he is the Fox X-Men Quicksilver. And I think they are hiding that from us and tricking us so that when the double reveal comes back around, it makes that much more of an impact. And I will back this point up by saying it was never revealed who Jimmy Woo's witness protection person was. And what better witness protection name for the Fox X-Men Quicksilver than Boner?
That was a reference to Growing Pains, Ralph Boner from the character, by the way.
And somebody whose last name is Boner wouldn't laugh at their own last name. And when Monica reads that last name, it was almost as if that was the first time somebody had said that last name to him.
He was still under the spell, by the way.
He was still under the spell, but the spell was just giving him the abilities as far as we're concerned and making him obey her. We don't really know what the extent of that spell was, other than fake memories and that sort of stuff.
And we're not going to know because they cut out the big scene with Ralph Boner, the twins, fighting
Monica.
Monica fighting Senior Scratchy. Right. So we're never going to know that point till maybe later or till So.
And so I think the reason why they cut that scene out is because they didn't have enough time to finish it, but also because after she pulls the necklace off of him and he's no longer under Agatha's control, I think he still has his super speed. Because I think he is still Quicksilver. And he came over in some sort of weird multiverse split and got put into witness protection. And you can't tell me that the Fox X-Men Quicksilver that we all know wouldn't make a penis joke as his witness protection name.
They would. Okay. First, I agree with the essence of the character that you have there. Yes, I think the Fox version of the Quicksilver would make a penis joke out of a name. So I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I hope this was not a double fake out, because the last time I had a double fake out, I watched The Rise of Skywalker. Okay. No, you're nobody. No, you're a Palpatine.
Yeah.
All right.
Rise of Skywalker is notorious for the double fake outs. Chewbacca's dead. Oh wait, no, he's alive.
Yeah, it's not committing. I think there's a Mashable article with the head writer who says he didn't know that Pietro was going to make people start to think like, oh, Michael Fassbender is going to start showing up now. So they feel like, look, it was a great fake out. I think the reason people were talking about why Evan Peters made sense is because if you just brought in the original actor who was Quicksilver in the movies, we would know something might been up. Right. But bringing in Evan Peters,
it was showing that she was willing to accept,
right? And person. So were we, because we all wanted him to believe he is Quicksilver. Us as the audience, it brought us into her world, and it made us on that level.
And if it was just some random nobody or Aaron Taylor Johnson, either of those options would have made us immediately go, something isn't adding up here. If they had casted, just throwing a name out here, Johnny Depp as Quicksilver, we would have immediately gone, wait, hold on. No.
Something's up. But because it was
just shown back up again.
Yeah.
The other option here, which I want to know how you feel about this one. I know that technically, and especially now with the reemergence of the Darkhold and it looking nothing like the one from the show, that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is technically no longer MCU canon.
Right. It's in its own universe.
It's in its own universe. But the first few seasons we know were originally MCU canon because they connected directly to the events of Age of Ultron.
They definitely tried. They definitely tried.
The question becomes, when did it split? We don't know. But what about the possibilities of the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver that we know from the MCU having been put through the Tahiti program and coming back out with none of his memories, but still all of his powers, and then putting him into witness protection? They had to, plastic surgery and all this stuff because they knew that Wanda wouldn't be able to be okay with him coming with them, like hiding him, but they wanted to keep him somewhere that they could use him if they needed to.
I think you're I think I see what you're going. I see where you're going, but I think
I'm throwing it out there. I don't think that one's likely. I personally feel like the other theory I have is more likely, but just throwing it out there is another possible option.
Yeah, I personally hope both your theories are wrong, because I want it just to be, it was just a great fake out because we got to ride with Wanda during the series finale. Like, because again, someone who wasn't ingrained in the X-Men movies would automatically think, well, something's up. This isn't the person. But all of us super fans who watched all the X-Men movies, who knows all this stuff backwards and forwards, we're going to be like, no, that's her brother. Something happened. She did some multiverse stuff and now he's back. Right.
So here's the only thing that makes me think is a double fake out is, and I don't know if you saw this or not, in the closed captions version of the episode he appeared in, he is
the original episode.
Episode 4 or 5, I don't remember which episode.
The Family Ties episode where he shows up at the front door.
Episode, yes. He is described in the closed captions as the Fox version of Quicksilver.
Right. Yeah.
So why would you describe him as that?
To throw people off.
That doesn't seem I don't know.
To throw people off. It's the Fox version of Quicksilver. It throws you off. Like, okay, so then I have to watch X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men.
Why wouldn't they own up to just intentionally baiting us? Everybody's coming out.
That was the point.
But they're not owning up to it. Everybody's coming out saying, "Oh, we didn't expect that people would run all these wild theories." So if they were doing it intentionally to throw us off and bait us into believing that this is multiverse, then why, when the show is over, wouldn't they just come out and say, "Yeah, we wanted to subvert expectations. We wanted to this, and this." But now they're coming out saying, "Oh, yeah, we didn't think anything of it."
Did you watch the behind the scenes special yet? No, I haven't. So I wish I did my homework and watched that before doing this. I
forgot that was on there. I wanted to watch that before we did this as well, but I forgot about it.
Wah, 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 wah. We failed. We're failing. I got HBO Max the other day. I jumped the gun I do want to see Snyder Cut, by the way.
Yeah, I get it. I get it as included as part of my AT&T bundle.
Yeah.
So,
but I just bought it and I watched I watched some Superman cartoons. I watched Man of Tomorrow, which I was a little disappointed in. It started off great, and the end just kind of like too many fake outs in the end in that anime. Like it was I wanted it to be good. Yeah. So
I guess my question for you then is, if you don't believe or you don't want it to be that he was Jimmy Woo's person.
He could be Jimmy Woo's person. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with if Ralph Boner was the person. I don't mind that theory.
But then it turns out that the witness protection person just didn't matter.
Right. It's just,
which I guess it didn't, because they never revealed who it was.
I'm sorry, I'm not quoting where I read this from, but again, there's rumors are saying, yes, that person will be addressed in future incarnations of the MCU universe. But
maybe I guess Mania, Ant-Man sequel, maybe Jimmy Woo shows back up and he's like, "Oh, I know a guy."
Yeah, or maybe Jimmy Woo shows up in a Falcon and the Winter Soldier and says like, "Hey, we just came back from New Jersey, guys. Did any of you talk to Wanda? Because we're trying to find her now." Yeah. So
yeah, definitely possible. I think that for me, that is one of, because Jimmy's entire purpose for being there was to find his witness protection person.
Right. And he was being thrown back by Wanda's curse, whatever. Right. So people saying like, go away.
For it to just not come up again feels like the biggest disappointment to me. Like it feels like a very missed opportunity, because it means one of two things personally. It wasn't one of three things. Either they cut it because they didn't have time. It never mattered, and it was just a throwaway to get people speculating.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's a big deal, and they're saving it for a movie reveal.
Right.
Wow. As a way to get people to go back and watch WandaVision, because when Jimmy shows back up, he's like, "Oh yeah, I got my informant out of whatever," and they're like, "Oh wait, where were we supposed to know this from?" And then
right.
I don't know. I'm trying to look through our bullet points here, trying to see if there's anything else I feel like we need to touch on before we
did everything.
The last one is, what do you think happened to Hayward's vision, the White Vision?
Oh, because he just kind of flew after their fight of the minds.
After the Hex Vision, refilled all of Vision's memories,
right?
And then he just through the ceiling and out of there.
Again, they're gonna save him for Multiverse of Madness, because I think that's when, in the comics version, when White Vision shows up and interacts with Wanda, the idea is that he has no memory of anything and no emotional connection. Now he does. So it's kind of like,
my thing is, though, if he had all of his memories back, why wouldn't his first thing have been to go to Wanda and help her?
Because he wasn't that version of Vision, and he had to go figure things out.
It was the conflict. He didn't get factory reset back to the Vision we knew. It was now both of these versions. The one who was supposed to destroy Vision and the Vision we knew were now both in this same body.
Right, and now he's off, trying to figure out
his own internal conflict of, I need to destroy Vision and I am Vision.
Right, and trying to figure out what's my purpose. Yeah, so I think, again, it will show up as either in whatever we see in Multiverse of Madness, whatever.
Something else, who knows?
Something else.
Either way, this is not the last we've seen of Paul Bettany and Vision.
No, I think he said he'll play this character forever, as long as he can.
I mean, how incredible is it to think that before Paul Bettany got the voice role of Jarvis,
right,
that he was on the verge of retiring because he couldn't get any roles. Yeah, Paul Bettany said in an interview that before he got the call, he had auditioned for like 6 movies and didn't get the part in any of the movies. And he was sitting in his house, dejected, and was literally about to call his agent and say, "Hey, I'm done." And his agent called him and said, "Hey, we got a super small role for you. It's just a voiceover. They want you to show up in this new movie, Iron Man, that they're making. Jon Favreau is directing it. He's a big fan of your work. He would love for you to come, do this voiceover." And he's like, I'm not really a big voiceover guy. And he's like, it's a couple hours of work. They're going to pay you X amount of money. It's an easy paycheck. Get your name back out there. And he's like, all right, fine. He's like, I don't have to show up in person. They're not going to put me in spandex or anything like that. And he's like, no spandex. You don't show up in person, just a voiceover role. All right, cool. So he shows up, records the lines for Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
They loved how good of a job he did, so they added more Jarvis lines in.
Oh, okay.
For him. And this is where we are now.
So look, I am totally psyched about this. And did you know that the original end credits scene of Endgame was supposed to be Wanda showing up?
It was supposed to be the scene that we got in the show of her showing up at the morgue and inspecting his body.
And I think that, and they filmed it and everything.
Yeah.
So they probably again did something different.
I think the end credit scene, I feel pretty confident about this, was probably supposed to be that entire scene that we saw of her walking into Sword headquarters, talking to Hayward,
right,
and going down. I feel like that was supposed to be the entire end credit scene, or at the very least something very similar to it, and then they refilmed it.
Right, and I think they did a great job, and that was a scene right out of the comic books, and I think they did a really good job with that translation. Yeah,
and it just goes to show, even for Iron Man, even though they didn't have Kevin Feige overseeing everything, they didn't have this grand vision of what things were going to become, either the pure dumb luck or the genius of Jon Favreau and the Marvel heads.
Well, again,
at the time,
the Marvel heads at the time did not have good things. They were trying to. It was not on the path or the way it was supposed to be.
So then, the pure dumb luck to get Paul Bettany, as the voice of Jarvis.
Yeah. There was a lot of stuff going on in early MCU universe. It wasn't until Kevin Feige officially took the reins and said, he talked to Bob Chapek.
Yeah, Bob Chapek.
Bob Chapek, and said, I know what I'm doing. They did some power moves and said, you're now in charge of the MCU.
It was actually Bob Iger at the time. Bob Chapek.
Bob Iger.
Iger was.
But Bob Iger had his hands in too much stuff.
And Kevin Feige came in and was like, let me take this from you.
Yep.
And I'll make you a ton of money.
And something happened where Bob Iger was thrown out and said Kevin Feige is now in charge of it, and
it was the greatest decision they ever made.
And I think, again, bumps along the way, but again, they're doing a really good job, and whatever bumps they get along the way, they roll with it, they fix it, and they keep going, which is, I am excited to see what they want to do with Black Panther 2.
Yeah. I mean, from everything that I've seen so far, everything that they're talking about it seems that it's going to be more of an ensemble piece, and it's going to be something that will heavily feature more of just the culture of Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
And me personally, I think the best way to do this is some sort of either resurrection or a multiverse version of Killmonger, of Michael B. Jordan coming back and taking that lead role, not as the Black Panther, but he can still be Killmonger or whatever you want to call it, but that hero's journey of him taking on the mantle and leading it again. Because no offense to Letitia Wright or anything like that, I think that Chadwick Boseman's legacy will be enough to carry people going to see this movie, but they need somebody to lead the movie.
You need a very strong
and they need somebody who isn't going to replace Chadwick Boseman.
Again, the whole point of the Black Panther, because his sister does,
right?
It does get passed down to her. So
right, so we don't need a new Black Panther in the sense of somebody becoming a new T'Challa. We don't need a multiverse T'Challa. We don't need any of that. And so if she is going to take the mantle of Black Panther, that's fine. But I think she needs somebody to help lead her and help that movie along the way. Because obviously, the legacy of Chadwick Boseman is going to make a ton of people go see that movie in his, in his remembrance and in honor of him. But if they want it to be a success, they need more than just milk. Unfortunately, I hate to say the term, but milking his legacy.
We're gonna see. I think right now that
up on the screen you have this slate.
I think it's the correct slate. I'm not sure.
It isn't 100% current to my understanding, because Morbius got delayed, I believe, and Venom got delayed, and neither of those are technically in the MCU. They're not. Neither of those are technically Phase 4. Those are both Fox movies. With
the Marvel Phase movies, what one are you most looking forward to? What are you least looking forward to? What we're seeing on screen right now.
I'm going to disclude Captain Marvel 2 just because I don't think that's actually going to be a Phase 4 movie. If it actually is, then that's my least favorite. That's the one I'm looking forward to the least. But I don't think it's actually going to be a Phase 4 movie. I think that'll be the beginning of Phase 5. But who knows?
They're going to change it. You think they're going to change things around?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because everything's gotten pushed back at this point.
Right.
Black Widow still hasn't come out. Where Spider-Man got moved up ahead of Doctor Strange. Shang-Chi got delayed. So many things have gotten delayed. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe the most recent schedule is Falcon Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Then Black Widow, I believe, is supposed to come out before Loki.
You're right.
I don't know if it will. Then Loki will come out. And then I think Spider-Man is the next movie this year. I don't think Shang-Chi is coming out this year. I think Shang-Chi
I think Eternals is due to come out this fall.
Let me look. Hold on. I want to look because I want to make sure that we're giving our audience.
The
correct
Christian's going to look that up with the podcast, because right now, if you're watching the screen, I don't think I have the most up-to-date MCU Phase 4 slate. But right now, we're just kind of talking about what we're most looking forward to, what we're least looking forward to.
Okay, so I was partially mistaken.
All right, so Christian, what's the official slate of the MCU?
Got Falcon Winter Soldier debuting March 19th.
This Friday.
Black Widow debuting May 7th, tentatively. I might get pushed again. Loki debuting June 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Shang-Chi and Legend of Ten Rings debuting July 9th. So Black Widow will be the next movie technically that we're supposed to get. Shang-Chi then will be the first new movie that we're going to be getting. They're going to be releasing the animated What If series at some point in the summer, which technically isn't MCU connected, at least not that we know. Hawkeye series and Miss Marvel series are both tentatively scheduled for late 2021 release dates. The Eternals is scheduled for November 5th. And then Spider-Man is scheduled for December 17th.
So there's lots of stuff. Marvel has Disney
a ton coming out this year.
And then a lot just to keep everything moving
Doctor
forward.
Strange is March 25th of next year, and Thor: Love and Thunder is May 6th of next year. So over the next 14 months, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 TV series, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movies coming out in the next 14 months. So 10 Marvel projects coming out in the next 14 months, which is a lot.
It's a lot of it's coming out on Disney Plus.
And I guarantee you, if Dan was here, I know exactly what he would say, and that is a lot very quickly, and it is a lot to expect people to watch and keep up with.
They're jamming along, Pat. So I think the Disney machine, they're pumping out stuff almost just to keep things going, because this is their machine to keep people pumped. I'm going to keep subscribing to Disney Plus because I have a new Marvel thing coming out every single month almost.
Yeah, practically every single month.
So I think that's on purpose. I think I'm excited. I'm very excited to see Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I'm very excited to see Thor: Love and Thunder. Eternals.
I think Spider-Man is No Way Home is the title that I'm most looking forward to out of everything that we just talked about.
I want to see that movie. I'm excited I'm excited to see what that is.
I think Eternals is the thing I'm looking forward to the least out of everything we just talked about, just purely for the fact that I know nothing about it. The cast, the actors they have casted looks fantastic. There's a great group of actors that they have casted. But I know practically nothing about it, and I feel like this is their third attempt at creating this group. You know, you had the failed Inhumans, debacle. supposed to be released in theaters. Then was a limited series. CGI was horrible reviews.
The whole story was horrible.
The whole thing was horrible. Well. It was just massive collapse. And so I feel like the Eternals is their next attempt at saying, all right, let's try this again. Let's get a group of otherworldly beings together. I'm very cautiously optimistic for Shang-Chi. I think from everything I've heard about it, it has the potential to be a fantastic movie. It seems like they are very intent on creating a movie that is very down to earth and very true to the Asian culture.
Right.
And they a lot of fantastic people are connected to that movie from everything that I've heard. And so that movie definitely has potential. Obviously, you have all of the elephants in the room with everything going on with Spider-Man. You have all of the rumors of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and the multiverse, and you've got all of these multiverse villains that are confirmed to be showing up. You've got Alfred Molina, Doc Ock. You've got Jamie Foxx's Electro. You've got supposedly William Dafoe's Green Goblin showing up. Like you've got all of these characters showing up that I am so freaking terrified that we are not going to get another Spider-Man 3. Like I'm hoping that this does not become a repeat of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3 that we got, where they jammed so much in there. And I'm crossing my fingers that Marvel has enough say in what is happening in the Spider-Man movies to override so.
Oh, we just lost Christian again. He's hoping so much That I hope he comes back, everyone. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm back. We're back. We're back. We're here. I hope that Marvel has enough say in what's going on with Spider-Man to override Sony's desire to just jam all this stuff in there.
I hope it doesn't become a jam-packed thing. Can I ask you a nerd question?
Yes. Please.
Okay. Batman and Robin or Spider-Man 3? I'm sorry. Batman and Robin or Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire or Batman and Robin? Which one do you prefer?
Batman and Robin. 100%. Any day of the week. Give me Batman and Robin and give me Batman Forever.
George
Spider-Man.
Clooney, Batman.
Give me Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze.
Just chill out.
Over Topher Grace Venom every day of the week.
I'm against you on that one. I prefer Spider-Man 3 over. I enjoy all of them on its own merits. I think Batman Forever is a better movie than Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
I think they went too corny, too much, too fast in that movie.
And maybe it's the nostalgia factor in that I was the exact demographic that they were targeting.
You were that exact age. I was kind of like
age. I was that exact age. I was the kid that wanted all the action figures.
Yes.
You know, I was exactly who they were targeting. Right. So maybe it's that nostalgia factor for those Batman movies for me. Whereas with the Spider-Man movie, which I'm trying to remember what year that came out.
The Spider-Man 3 definitely came out way after
2007. Yeah. So I was 15 at that point. Mm-hmm. So much older than, much more, aware of what makes good and bad movies, and a much different demographic and target audience than what they were targeting with Batman and Robin.
Right. Well, again, I was an adult when I saw both of those movies. And I think that Batman and Robin missed them. Like, it went so much of a left turn from the original Michael Keaton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, this is Adam West, Burt Ward Batman. But that was the thing. That's what they were trying to go for, but it didn't even turn out campy. It just turned out cringy, but I loved it. I loved every second of it. It was super cringy, especially with the Batman credit card and
the bat nipples.
The bat nipples and all that. Yeah. So
the holy rusted metal Batman. I love that one. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to bring Nightwing in, but not really bring in Nightwing because they gave him the Nightwing costume.
I love Chris O'Donnell. And I think he did a fantastic job as Robin.
I'm not dissing him as Robin.
But it is such a shame that is the only live action Robin we have gotten.
I'm
not counting Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I refuse to count him as Robin.
He technically is Robin. That was his given name.
If anything, he's closer to Batman Beyond, version of Batman than he is to a Robin.
He's closer to Tim Drake than anything.
Yeah, if anything, he's closer to Tim Drake, if anything.
Because he figured out who Batman was, Tim Drake.
That is the only version of Dick Grayson that we've gotten in live action. And as much as I love those movies, as much as I love Chris O'Donnell's portrayal, that's so sad.
We'll see what happens with the Robert Pattinson's The Batman.
Which just wrapped filming.
Really?
Yeah, just wrapped filming 2 days ago, I think. So they're in post-production now. So
I'm cautiously optimistic after that last trailer.
Agreed.
So I think, I think we better hit the hay.
Yeah, we better wrap it up. So last piece here.
Last piece.
Predictions.
Falcon
and Winter Soldier. Give me 2 things. Give me two solid, legitimate, concrete predictions, and we will circle back in 6 or 7 weeks after this is all over, and we will judge both of us on how close our actual predictions are. Give me 2 actual predictions for the show.
I have been, again, I am a big Captain America fan.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that show. I was kind of really just waiting for the ride to see what happens.
Gonna put me on the spot.
You're gonna put me on the spot. All right. I think that they're gonna inject Falcon. I'm not even thinking this. If none of this happens, I'm fine with it. I'm just throwing stuff out there for this conversation.
Yep.
They'll stick some kind of super soldier serum inside Sam.
Okay. One more.
I'm just throwing that out there. They're going to have some kind of throwaway line connecting it to WandaVision.
Okay.
And they're just saying like, whoa, yeah, we didn't know what happened. And then some of the fallout because of WandaVision in the Sokovia Accords is going to filter into this and some of the negativity, which I think that's more of a solid theory than anything. I think that's more likely. So,
Okay. My two are, I think Baron Zemo is a puppet. I think he's being controlled by either General Ross or some mysterious government official that we don't know yet to further prove why the Sokovia Accords were necessary.
Okay.
And then the second one, which I touched on earlier, I think at the end of this, we are going to see that Captain America is no longer a person. It's an idea.
He's a symbol.
And it's a symbol. Yeah. It's kind of going to be like Batman. It's a symbol. It doesn't need to be a person. It's a symbol. And so some combination of Bucky, Falcon, Sharon Carter, that it's going to be group Captain America. It's going to be Team Cap.
Okay, let's go back to two theories. One theory that we talked about earlier in the podcast, we'll rate it 1 to 5, 5 being most likely, 1 being no. And one other thing that I read on the internet. Chris Evans showing up in some way, shape, or form, either as old Captain or getting reverted. Your theories on that?
Negative
some way,
5. Negative 5 on being reverted.
Okay, showing up.
I would say 5. I think it is almost a guarantee that we will see him in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not a new scene that they filmed, and if it's just an extension of the scene that they filmed for Endgame.
Yeah, I think they might show that, but a new film,
like a new film. I would say a 3 on a new scene filmed specifically for this. I would say a 5 on old Cap showing up in something that we didn't, not just a flashback to what we already saw, but an extension to that scene. Okay.
I think that's solid.
Yeah.
Captain America's offspring showing up in this and becoming part of the Young Avengers.
I would say 2 to it being Captain America's offspring.
Okay.
But I would say a 4 or 5 to a younger super soldier type person coming out of the woodwork to be trained by Bucky and Sam to be part of the Young Avengers. Some younger kid who, signed up for the military, they're testing, something like that.
I just lost the theory. I just out of my head. So I think that's kind of good for now. I think we should follow back with these theories.
We'll follow back around so anybody watching, listening, leave a comment down below. Post on our Facebook group. What are your theories? Falcon and Winter Soldier. Hit us with your what theory you're going to be thinking. And then, 6-7 weeks from now, when it's all said and done, we will reconvene. And over the next couple of weeks, while we're doing our other episodes and stuff like that, we will try to get a prediction out of the rest of the guys.
Right.
Even if it doesn't fit the theme we're going for that episode, we're going to try to milk a prediction out of each of them at least, so that we can have at least one prediction on file for everybody. So that when it comes for our Falcon Winter Soldier wrap up, we've got something to throw at everybody, see how good they did.
I think next week, for sure, Dan will be here, and we're probably talking about Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident next week will probably be a Snyder Cut conversation.
Or whenever we post.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks so much for tuning in tonight, everybody. I know it was a little bit of a different episode, mostly me and Bobby hanging out tonight, but we appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you guys stay safe, have a great week, and we'll catch you next time.
We'll catch you next time, everyone. Have a great day. See you later.